Hey everyone, welcome to Why Are You Still Here? Now, I know this is a different format than usual, but I figured I would jump in at the beginning and just let you know that the video you are about to watch is a highlight reel of a much longer video. So if you're interested in checking that out, and I highly suggest that you do, click right up here and it'll take you right to it. But otherwise, enjoy the video. Immediately it picks up, kills comes to an end, and this is like a Halloween 2 situation where it picks up immediately. Allison is being ushered into the ambulance, and she happens to look up and see her mom get killed in front of her in the Myers window. Okay, so she can't do anything about it though because she's being ushered into the ambulance, and she's like, "What's going on?" And then all of a sudden, Michael disappears, but not really, because he's very injured and he is sort of like leaning up against fence posts and stuff. And that's where these two garbage men basically come across him for a second. And make a long story short, he ends up killing these two garbage men. Okay. He ends up stealing the garbage truck and he drives away with it. And the entire mob of the town has banded together. Laurie Strode has left the hospital. Okay. Just like in the extended cut of Kills, she leaves the hospital with a knife in her hand. I'm coming for you, Michael. And she's leading the whole mob of the town, but they can't find him, unfortunately. I mean, she wants to track him down. She wants to kill him. The whole town is basically listening to her. Like, they're checking everywhere they possibly can, and they just can't find him, unfortunately. And it's like, what's going on? Eventually they find the abandoned garbage truck, and that's all. It's like he's vanished. You know what I'm saying? All of this stuff I fully strongly believe was in the original cut of the movie, 100%, because it's just too detailed. It's way too detailed. I mean, these garbage men have names. They have first
Oh,
names and they
wow.
have a backstory. So I'm thinking they were in the movie. And it seems like the search for Michael goes on for about a year, and then it just sort of fizzles out. Michael stumbles across a little girl that's in the woods who has been kidnapped by her father. Her mother's looking for her. He's extremely abusive, and he thinks like, well, if I can't have her, then I'm gonna steal her and I'm gonna keep her. And he keeps her attached to a chair with ropes wrapped around her, right? Outside, and Michael emerges from the shadows on he's on the way to the slaughterhouse. We'll get there, trust me. And he basically stares into the eyes of the little girl and transfers, his part of his evilness to her. I guess it's like a Tom Riddle situation. Like you can split it,
I
seven
guess.
different ways, because it's not like he's giving it up and now he's just a shell that's going to fall down. He keeps giving it to people, right? So whatever. And she is able to, basically get out of the restraints and murder her father. And there's this really cool moment, and she's like 6 years old. There's this really cool moment where basically the father's like looking up at her next to the campfire, which I can just picture how cool this would be. He remarks to himself not only that she's holding a knife, but that her eyes have become black. And who's standing behind her just staring down and watching? It's Michael, right? And she proceeds to stab the father until he's dead, and then Michael just moves on. And how cool is that? How freaking cool is that?
Yeah, just like another 6-year-old that murdered a family member.
So good. Yes, exactly. He just lives for a year, maybe over a year, I don't know, under the floorboards of this slaughterhouse, and he eats the scraps of meat that fall down. through the cracks
So
of the
gross.
floor. Very gross, but it's like it explains how, you know, he managed to survive. So you watch the movie and you're like, he's lived in this nasty ass sewer for 4 years. Nope, he did not. It gets abandoned in a year, which is why I said that he lives under there for maybe a year, because he's not getting scraps anymore at that point. And there is a couple that comes by, and you know, Halloween night 2019, same night that, you know, Jeremy Allen falls, and they're just like going there for like some Halloween fun. And actually the girl is the girl that Cameron made out with in, you know, 2018, so a year prior to this, at the you know, the Halloween party.
Yep.
But she, you know, got over that and stuff, and basically Cameron died, and so she had to move on with life. And there's basically this whole thing where they're in the slaughterhouse, the abandoned slaughterhouse, when Michael emerges, and it is so cool. Like, if somebody was like, what is the one thing you want out of all of these, that would be like one of the top things, this entire scene, because it is so cool, you know. Basically, and it's one of mine that have asterisks next to it as well, 3 of them. The boyfriend gets killed in a really nasty way inside the slaughterhouse. The girlfriend takes off running. There's this really cool, like, the way that the book is, it really gets painted for you in your mind. She takes off running. There's a chase. She runs up a tree, but she's like hurt by this point, and she's trying to stay quiet, you know, on top of this tree. Michael walks down and just stops under her. No particular reason for that. She said that he smells her. And so he's just standing there, and she's like, what the fuck? You know, like, how am I gonna get away from this, right? And so she sees, like, it's by the bridge, so cars come by on the bridge, and she's like, I could scream to them, but, you know, could they help me? They probably can't help me. They won't even hear me, and all this shit. So eventually she decides to, I don't know if I wrote it down exactly what it was. I don't think so, but she has something on her, like in her purse or something, and she decides to jump down and stab it into Michael's face from the tree. And he gets knocked down, and then she just takes off running, right? And this is also interesting because it's another way that he has been hurt.
I was
right?
just
It's
going to
not
mention
just
this explains why he's Hobble Myers in this one.
Yep.
And not just, you know, the effects on his body from the mob at the end of Kills. So
100%.
that's awesome.
Yep. And so she hurts him pretty good, and she takes off running. She starts running towards the bridge, but then she sees like a pipe, you know, like a sewer pipe. So she starts running down that, trying to be super quiet, you know, walking through the muck. She keeps looking behind her. He's nowhere to be seen. And then all of a sudden, she starts hearing pounding on the side of the sewer pipe. And she's like, he's found me. And so she looks around and finds a piece of rebar. Okay. And so she goes and she walks out to the other side. You know, she's like, I'm gonna stab him with this rebar, and he ends up taking it from her and stabbing her through the body with it. It's like Lori stops by to talk to Joan, you know, saying like, she's like, wait, did my son do something wrong? You know, whatever. And she's like, no, he's dating my granddaughter. I wanted to come meet you, that whole kind of thing. And Corey is actually up in his room that entire time for that discussion, and he can hear them the whole time. It's so weird. Like, they're acting like he's not there. Lori, in that behind the scenes footage where she goes, you know, I think that maybe he should see a therapist, that whole thing. And we thought maybe she was talking to Allison.
I just want to make sure that he's getting the right support. There's a good therapist that I see.
So that's a line to Corey's mom that was obviously cut from the movie. And then Corey comes down and he creeps her out and she leaves. And then he goes to the window. I told you about this because it was one of my favorite parts. He goes to the window, stares at her as she's leaving. He puts on the scarecrow mask to taunt her. She's like looking at him. And then he continues staring out that window from morning until the sun goes down. He's staring out that window. That's 7 hours.
So he was Michael from the TV cut of the movie, staring out the window.
Yep, exactly. That is exactly what I thought when that part came along. And I'm like, that's really good. I like that because there's not a lot of ways that he is like Michael Myers other than wearing masks and killing people, right? Like, he doesn't really stop talking in the movie. He doesn't do weird, creepy shit like that, like staring in a catatonic state. But in the book, he does. He does do that stuff. And, you know, like Corey's mom comes up and starts like smacking him and like going, Corey, what you doing? Stop doing that. You're scaring me. You're scaring your mother. Ronald, what is he doing here? He's scaring his mother, you know, like that whole kind of thing. And Ronald's like, oh, whatever. And then when the sun actually goes down, he's like activated and then goes out onto the streets of Haddonfields. So there is a moment where Allison is just sort of driving, you know, contemplating things, and actually she drives past graffiti on the wall of Michael Myers' mask on the side of a building. She drives past all notable areas in the last 2 movies that Michael had killed people. So she drives past the park that, you know, everybody died in the car next to and kills, and she drives past all these places and she ends up at the cemetery, okay? And she walks up to her parents' graves and she's basically just, you know, sort of just standing there, not really saying anything, just kind of like spending time with her parents, which she says that she has done it a lot. And she notices, I think this is really sweet, she notices on top of the graves, there's flowers left, but there's also a scarf that is draped over the 2 graves, the same scarf that Laurie has been knitting since the beginning of this movie. Yeah.
Nice little touch.
Yeah, it almost makes me, it gives me like happy chills, you know. I'm like, that's sweet. And then she lays between the graves and, you know, just hangs out there, basically. Hawkins on Halloween night is performing his guitar that he talked about earlier. He's performing it at the bar. Him and Lindsay have a moment where they're at the back of the building and they think that Michael is behind the dumpster. At first they think it's blood running out from under the dumpster, but it turns out it's just a drunk guy pissing. So they're all good to go on that one. But it shows the paranoia, I guess, with everybody in Haddonfield. There is a group of kids that show up at the Myers house property. And when I say kids, like little kids, they're all dressed as Michael and they all perform a seance on the Myers house property on Halloween night. And Michael shows up, not because of the seance, but because he's now out. They think he's dead, but he shows up and and when I say they're dressed as Michael, they're all wearing like blue clothes on and like paper mache masks. Like, it's not anything crazy here. And Michael shows up and basically just stares at them and then walks away. And they're freaked out for life, scarred for life. When Corey comes into the house and, you know, moves up the stairs, obviously Laurie has the whole, you know, gonna commit suicide thing again. And when he opens the door and she shoots him, before she shoots him, she says, I hate being right, and then shoots him. She doesn't say, did you really think I was gonna kill myself, like in the movie? So that was fun. And I think you can hear her say that in one of the trailers where she says, I hate being right.
I hate being right.
Barker is not the sheriff of the town anymore, but he's just there at the end and everybody listens to him. When the cops are like, this is not how it works in this town, and Barker goes, it is tonight. Why is anybody listening to him? He's not the sheriff. So that's freaking weird. All of this stuff is obviously the same, you know, leading up to this point. If I don't mention it, it's exactly the same as the movie, like the kids dying in the junkyard, the DJ dying, and all that kind of stuff. You know, the fight between Laurie and Michael, it's almost identical. And then, you know, he's dead, strapped on top of the car. Lindsay is at the junkyard at the end, as you'd expect her to be. Don't know why she wasn't in the movie. And Laurie remarks to herself that every single person who has ever been hurt in any way by Michael Myers is there at the junkyard at the end. And the reason that the news spreads is not because it's magic or like somehow everybody in the town just knew. They noticed it as the procession came by. They noticed what was going on, and then they joined it in the procession. Laurie finishes her memoir.
Fear moves through all of us.
She highlights the entire thing and she deletes it. I know.
Well, that's fucking stupid as shit.
I know. And I'll tell you why. Because it's what this very last bullet point is. I told you it was going to be a good one. Frank comes up to the door, knocks. He leaves the basket of fruit behind. But there's no talk of cherry blossoms. There's no sitting down next to each other having a decent conversation. In fact, she walks out. She's super weird. Frank notices it and he's like, I brought you some fruit. And she's like, yeah, I don't need it. And then closes the door and goes back inside. And then he feels like so what the hell about it that he picks up the fruit and leaves with the fruit. Vegetables, I think is what they are, but
whatever.
So he's walking away with the basket of vegetables and he turns around and looks back at the house, and the way he sees Laurie retreat from the door into the shadows of the house, it gives him an awful feeling in the pit of his stomach, raises the hair on the back of his neck, and he now knows that the evil from Michael has transferred into her.
All right, well, the movie did that way better. That's fucking dumb.
I know. And it's like, he's like, I haven't seen that look in somebody's face since Michael in 1978. And then it says, so she deleted the memoir, obviously, because she's evil Laurie now. She doesn't care.
Right.
I know. And then it's the same thing where it focuses in on the mask on her living room table. And the book ends with it alluded to that she's gonna pick up that mask and put it on and start a killing spree.